You know, every single year, thousands of people are seriously injured or even killed on the job. But what if I told you that most of these incidents, they're completely preventable? It's true. Real safety isn't about luck, and it's not just about being careful. It's a system. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify that exact system, the one that really saves lives.
So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to build what I like to call a pyramid of safety, right from the ground up. We'll start with the language, then move to planning, safe execution, and finally, we'll tackle how to control the most high-risk jobs out there.
All right, first things first. To build a strong safety culture, everybody, and I mean everybody, has to be speaking the same language. It's the absolute foundation for everything else to follow, so let's get the basics down.
Okay, let me ask you something. What's the real difference between a hazard and a risk? We hear these two words thrown around all the time, often like they're the same thing. But in the world of safety, nope, they are not the same thing at all.
Think of it like this. A hazard is anything with the potential to cause harm. So, a puddle of water on the floor, that's a hazard. But the risk, well, that's the likelihood that someone actually slips on it and gets hurt. Is that puddle in a super busy hallway? Is the floor tile really slippery? The hazard is just the water, but the risk is the very real chance someone ends up with a broken arm. Getting that difference straight is absolutely crucial.
Right. So an accident is what we call an incident that actually results in harm. But an incident can also be a near miss. You know, that heart-stopping moment where something could have gone terribly wrong, but by sheer luck, it didn't? Tracking those near misses is so important because they're basically free lessons. They're warning signs that let us spot hazards before they cause a real accident.
Okay, so now that we're all speaking the same language, let's talk about how to use it to create a proactive safety plan. This is all about getting ahead of the game, identifying and controlling those hazards before they can ever cause an incident.
And at the heart of any great safety plan is the risk assessment. This is where you basically put on your detective hat and you walk around asking, okay, what could go wrong here? And how could it go wrong? This isn't about being paranoid. It's a super systematic way to find potential dangers and figure out, step by step, how to control them.
And the process itself? It's really just common sense, broken down. First, you spot the hazard. Then, you figure out who's in the line of fire. After that, you evaluate how serious the risk is. You write it all down, and then, this is the critical part, you review it regularly. Things change. It's a simple loop that turns just being aware into concrete action. Now, that risk assessment is a key piece of the puzzle, but it all comes together in something called the HSE plan. That stands for Health, Safety, and Environment. Honestly, you should think of this as the master playbook, the constitution for the entire worksite. It outlines the company's whole safety strategy.
And a good HSE plan is way more than just a list of rules. It is a complete, comprehensive playbook. For instance, a big construction company's plan won't just say, hey, wear your hard hats. It'll outline leadership's actual commitment to safety, the exact procedure for reporting an accident, and the detailed plan for how to evacuate the entire site if there's a fire. It's a living, breathing document.
So having a master plan is great, right? But it's only as good as the tools you use to actually put it into action. So in this next section, we're going to look at the specific formal procedures that are used on the ground to control those high-risk tasks every single day. One of the most important tools in the entire safety toolbox is the permit to work, or PTW for short. The best way to think about it is like a pilot's pre-flight checklist, but for high-risk jobs. It is a formal, written document that literally forces everyone to stop, to double-check that all the safety precautions are in place. And only then can the work begin. Now, not all jobs are created equal, so of course not all permits are the same. The two main types you'll always hear about are hot work and cold work. Hot work is pretty much what it sounds like, anything that could create a spark or a flame, like welding or grinding. Cold work is, well, it's everything else, things like painting or pulling cables. Simple as that. Okay, another absolutely critical life-saving procedure is something called lockout/tagout, or LOTO. This whole system is designed to prevent a machine from accidentally starting up while someone is doing maintenance on it. Imagine a worker is physically inside a giant machine doing repairs. LOTO is the system that makes sure it's impossible for someone to flip a switch and turn it on while they're still in there. The LOTO process is beautifully simple but incredibly effective. You find all the energy sources, electrical, hydraulic, you name it. You tell everyone involved what's happening. You shut down and physically isolate the equipment. You apply actual physical locks and tags. And then, and this is the most important part, you test it. You try to turn it on to make absolutely sure it is de-energized before anyone gets anywhere near it.
So we've covered the language, we've got the plans, and we have the procedures. We're now at the very top of our safety pyramid. It's time to put it all together and see how these tools are actually used to manage some of the most high-risk jobs you can imagine.
First up, let's talk about working at height. Generally, this is defined as any kind of work that's being done more than 1.8 meters. That's about 6 feet off the ground. I mean, the hazards here are pretty obvious, right? You can fall, things you're working with can fall on people down below you, and the very equipment you're standing on could become unstable. It's really a trifecta of danger. So, to stay safe, you need a two-pronged approach. You need fall prevention. These are things like guardrails that physically stop you from falling in the first place, and you need fall protection. That's your harness and your lifeline. That's what saves you if you do fall. It's not one or the other. You absolutely need both.
All right, next up, confined space entry. Now, this isn't just about being in a small room. A confined space is any area that's not really designed for people to be in for long, and it usually has a tricky way in or out. Think of a giant storage tank, a silo, or even a sewer line. What is absolutely terrifying about confined spaces is that the biggest dangers are often completely invisible. We're talking about a lack of oxygen, toxic gases, or the very real risk of being buried alive by materials inside. These hazards can kill a person in just minutes. They are silent and they are swift killers. And that is exactly why the precautions are so strict and non-negotiable. You need a specific permit just for that entry. You need continuous air monitoring the entire time. You need a trained attendant, a hole watcher, outside at all times. And you absolutely must have a rescue plan ready to go before anyone even thinks about going inside. There are zero shortcuts here. You know, at the beginning of all this, I said that most workplace accidents are preventable, and I hope now you can see why. Real safety isn't about luck, and it isn't a poster on the wall. It is a deliberate, systematic process that everyone, from the CEO all the way down to the brand new hire, has to actively be a part of. So we've built our pyramid of safety, from the language all the way up to high-risk controls. Now that you understand the system, I want you to think about your own environment. Maybe it's at work, maybe it's at home. What's the most important safety step you can take today? What's one hazard you can spot? And more importantly, what's one simple thing you can do to control its risk?